Good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter here from nearby the Dead Sea in Israel. And this is the night of Sol, the sun, which is in 11 degrees in Libra. So the sun is ruled by Venus, which is the ruler of the hour. And the ascendant is also ruled by Venus. Venus is right now in the 4th house in Leo, okay, with Libra in the 6th. Having this nice reception with the sun, okay, sun in Venus sign, Venus in Soul sign. The midheaven is in 25 degrees Capricorn, applying to conjunct Pluto, who has Mars squaring it, but Uranus applying to trine it. And the ruler of the midheaven is Saturn retrograde in the 11th house in Pisces, which is Jupiter ruled, with Jupiter in the 4th house in 14 degrees Taurus retrograde. Well, those of you who are sharp inside can notice that Lilith ingressed into Virgo. So we're talking about the Black Moon Lilith. There are 4 Liliths, but this is Black Moon Lilith. And she just ingressed into Virgo, which here is in the 5th sign, and conjuncting lot of fortune right now, opposing Saturn retrograde. Now, I will actually begin with Lilith, just so that we, before that, the moon is in Gemini's 2nd house, and it is applying to trine Mars and Ketu, and it is also applying very, very slowly, only within the 10 degrees orb to sextile Mercury. Crassia Tassio is planning to make a talisman out of this sextile. She's doing it the Babylonian astrology way, the ancient magical way. I don't get dividends from this, I just telling you. The reason I kind of chose to skip that is because modernly this Mercury is, while trining Pluto, it is opposing Neptune, with the moon squaring Neptune. And so as a person who's highly energy sensitive, I kind of doubt that I would be able to make a Mercury talisman. The moon is decreasing, so you could use this talisman to manifest removal of obstacles, okay? Removal of obstacles in your life, or clutter removal or anything like that. But because the Mercury is opposing Neptune retrograde, then as a person who works with the outer planet and sensitive to their energy, I'm kind of thinking to skip that election for me, but there is going to be a Mercury talisman with this election made by Crassia Tassio that she's going to make tomorrow. It's going to be a Jupiter day. So if you want the full election by Crassia, you go to Crassia Tassio and her magical elections. I will definitely be looking into it. And Lilith. Okay, so Lilith is in Virgo on Regulus. Okay, she's applying to Regulus. She is on Regulus. Yes, Regulus is 0 degree Virgo. And Regulus is a royal star, it's a fixed star. That used to be in Leo and moved to Virgo. And Regulus is basically, it is the power of raising people into kings, okay? To make a person a king, to make a person royal. With Lilith there, that part of us that won't be above or beneath anybody, and in Virgo is a very practical sign, is rising to become notable, famous, but because of the location of Saturn, there's also conjuncting another fixed star called Fomalhaut in retrograde. It's not a talismanic election, so there basically is Saturn opposing this royal fixed star and Lilith that's on it. So I have not the full delineation of what this thing actually makes now in life. But first of all, we need to note that the fixed star is in Virgo and no longer in Leo. And that is something I kind of was brought to my attention by Sphere and Sundry marketing posts. And the first example I was thinking about was Beyonce, because Beyonce is in her stardom kind of like a queen and very, very notable. She had I think just finished her tour, which was the 7th best selling of all times. Okay, but she is not only a Virgo sun, it's also, she's not the type of king or queen that would sit and flex. Okay, she's not the type of king or queen that has inherited this role. Okay, while her parents were very wealthy, she's not coming from the generation of wealth of kind of like Elon Musk. She's coming from a middle class family, but also her glory is not about the person that just sit and flexes. Okay, she has worked her entire life very, 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 very hard. Like an employee, she worked harder than her staff, and still going. Okay, maybe now she's more relaxed. She's a mother. She keeps a schedule a bit better when she's at the show, but still, what she's known for is her, what people call it, work ethics. But this is more like the Virgo type of work, which, you know, it would clean the house to remove anxiety, and would work the same as to get her joy at work. And she said, when I'm on stage, when I'm performing, I feel free. Okay, it's not just the feeling that every other person would get in front of a camera and a billion people. Okay, Robbie Williams, which is another performing artist, feels in tremendous anxiety when he performs, and he was addicted to cocaine to reduce that anxiety. As you see the differences. But Virgos, in general, they like to work. They are a joy at work. They are confident at work. And this is a very different Regulus than the Regulus of Leo, which is open-hearted, it's kind, it's performative. It can make the sacrifice, of course, when it's needed, but it's very, it's a lot about performing and less about being known for your work ethics. Okay, kings are not known for their work ethics usually. And they're not known for working very hard. So that's Regulus. And now Lilith enters this place while Saturn is opposing. So Lilith is the archetype of that which won't be above or beneath you. Okay? Lilith is not looking to rule you, but neither is she looking to be ruled by you. And she's separating from a trine to Aries and forming a sextile with Ceres. Okay? Ceres. And who is Ceres? Okay? If Aries in Aries, and I talk about her a lot, is the goddess of discordia. Okay? Then she's the one to drop chaos, poisoning, make everybody fight with everybody, And the card is the card of enlightenment. She wasn't invited to the party, so now she had put a golden apple at the seats of the gods and said to the fairest. Okay, so that everybody is going to fight upon a very insignificant thing, but with the framing so that she just gets to enjoy the spectacle, and this turns into the War of Troy. Okay, all of that because she's not been included. Okay, Aries in Aries with Rahu there is not a good time to not be inclusive of people. And your best card actually is, hey, I haven't been included, so look what you made me do. Okay? But there are going to be a conglomerate of people who are going to say the same thing. And that's the trick. Ceres is the mother of Persephone. And now she's ingressed into Scorpio. Again, the first person that really noted this was Empress Atlantis, who talks about these ingresses for a while now, and she feels them a lot in her chart, so she's a great voice to learn from. And for Aries, I've really been enjoying Catherine Urban's mentioning her in even her retrograde. Yes, I know there are more people who do that now. People who are very, specifically Aries people. When I get more appointable, I definitely want to bring them on the show. But I do like it when people also mention her casually and pay attention to her, and then pays attention to the mundane aspects as well. So Ceres is in Scorpio. And there's still its sextile. So Ceres just ingressed into Scorpio. Ceres is Persephone's mother. And the story was that Ceres' daughter got abducted by Hades into the underworld. Okay? Whatever they had there is not considered willingly consensual sex. And then she married him. But Ceres was so much in anguish that she made the land infertile until her daughter come back. Eventually, she made a deal with Hades that 6 months Persephone is with him, and 6 months she's coming back from the underworld, and the land is infertile for the entire time that Ceres goes into the underworld. Okay, this is basically the goddess of the seasons, therefore associated with agriculture. But she's also the mother whose child got kidnapped and ended up in the underworld. Okay? And in Scorpio, the theme is quite accurate. Okay, Scorpio rules sexuality, taboos, but also psychology. Think about all the parents, not just the refugees, but all the parents whose children get taken from them because they complained of domestic violence, because they were evacuated and needed shelter. Because. And you think these children are going to get better houses that can take care of them. But for those who survive, you understand that the welfare by the enforcement of the state took the children, and they ended up with families that are abusive. And sometimes the child genuinely wanted to get away from the abusive family of origin, but got into another abusive family. And so either way, the child is not getting the housing and the care that it needs. And in many cases, it's being torn from a parent that genuinely cares about him or her, or two parents that genuinely care about the child, but they just need somebody to help with cleaning, somebody to help. Maybe they went through violence and need to rest, okay? Or, whatever. And so those scandals are also being exposed. Now, this series is sextile in Lilith, and Lilith trines Aries. So you think about Lilith. Lilith, the myth of Lilith, was basically the original woman of Adam. Okay, Adam from Adam and Eve, that Adam. Okay, so the first man. And she had no problem to be with him, but she said, I will not be above you. I'm not looking to be above you, but I will also not be beneath you. I'm not a part of the whole that is you. Okay, I'm not a part of you in the sense that there is this part, half of the chest or something like this, that is me inside you. No, I'm a separate entity, and I'm not walking above or beneath you. I'm walking beside you. Adam couldn't handle that. He was not ready for an equal partner, and whether he cast Lilith out or Lilith just had to run away because she would not agree. She could not deal with being anything but equal. Okay? But after she ran away or was cast away, she was known as the goddess that steals children. Now, how does this thing merges with the sextile to Ceres, who has her children taken, and the trine to Ares, who's the goddess of discordia? Basically, Lilith is in a place where she has been cast out for desiring to be equal, but why should she give up her desire to be a mother? Is it unfair to kidnap the child of a father who was raised, let's say, his daughter, to be subservient, when the daughter maybe is like a Sedna story, where is Sedna? Is sitting in 0-degree Gemini. And who is Sedna? And what is 0-degree Gemini? It's square in Lilith. It conjuncts. It is, yes, it in conjuncts Ceres, but is forming, about to form the 30 degrees out of sign with Aries. Okay, and Sedna was the daughter of a father that the daughter did not want to get married. She was an Inuit goddess. She did not want to get married. And there are many versions of the story, but eventually, either she ran away with the man who was the bird's man, okay, that he thought would show freedom, or she was guided into a shamanistic road. But eventually her father tried to go to save her, is one version. But another version is that she didn't want to be married. Father did not know what to do with her, because what happened when he dies, he sold her to a man. This man mistreated her. She tries to run to her father, and her father cuts off her hands, cuts off her fingers. She dives into the sea. She becomes the queen of the underworld. Okay. There are other versions where she ran off with the man and then wanted to come back, or ran off with the man and then her father tried to look for her, but she actually wanted to stay with that man. So there are many versions to the Sedna story. But if you think about one of these versions where they're out there, there's a daughter that doesn't want to marry because she doesn't want to be above or beneath a man. Okay? Is it immoral to kidnap this girl and raise her? This is where Lilith is. This is where Lilith is. In the sign of Mercury, which rules children. And so, while Ceres is busy defending the parents or the women whose child, and the men as well, whose child's been taken away by the welfare and was sold to organized crime, Lilith is now sextiling Ceres and says, you know what? For those that kidnap your child, they have children, and you know why they kidnap your child? Because you didn't want to be above or beneath the man. You were cast out. And so think about their daughters and their sons as well. If I kidnap one of these and I grow them as my own child, they will not have to suffer this torment that you suffer and that your child suffers. So this is moral to kidnap those children. Okay? But then there is the opposition from Saturn. And Saturn is retrograde in Pisces, which Pisces also rules children. And Saturn's like, wait. Do you have the food to feed them? Do you have the house to house them? Do you have the medicine to take care of them? What will you do about the papers? Okay. And they're having this conversation where Lilith, well, the moral thing to say for the child is basically to have them kidnapped from the place, to have them saved basically from the place where they would be subservient to pedos, because their parents are kidnapping children and putting them in organized crime. Okay, so they grow their children into those types of relations that are unequal. It doesn't matter what the child's gender or sex is. Okay? But then she has to be practical on how to do this. And so Lilith here appears not just as the partner won't be above or beneath you, which she can, okay? But also she befriends Ceres, Demeter, who's had her child taken from her, and say, see, the person that said this woman is not good to be a mother, okay? This person has children. I take them children. I grow them well. I give them their children back if they give you your children back. Okay? Now we already have this trine with Aries, the goddess of discordia. It's like, let's talk about this. Let's get these guys that put in these mothers. Right now, mothers could also be fathers in impossible situations. Put them in an impossible situation. And Saturn's like opposing Lilith. It's like, but how are you going to do that legally? You do that, you're criminal. Okay, it's not immoral to do that. But Saturn say, in terms of the legislation, what about the medicine? How are you going to register the child? How are you going to, when they organized crime, they just take it as this the government. Okay, if you come as a single person or a single woman, you try to do that, you do them what they do. For how long will it hold waters if you did that stunt, if you did that trick? It's a good idea, but does it work practically? It's not an immoral idea, but does it work practically? Okay, so Saturn opposition is the gate of incarnation into Virgo right now. While Mercury is about to ingress into Libra. Which is also ruled by Venus, which is still in Leo. Trining this Aries and conjuncting this Lilith from Leo. Venus has not yet left her shade period, okay? The Venus retrograde story, the Venus retrograde story is not anywhere near done yet. She has a couple of degrees to go before she exits her shade period. So Venus has not done her Venus story. And she's already applying, opposing an effect of opposing Saturn, it's applying aspect, and applying to conjunct Lilith. She's conjuncting Lilith in an applying aspect. Okay, Black Moon Lilith. But the story, the plot thickens, and the plot doesn't thicken because of Saturn. Saturn is like it's the gate of incarnation. Can this idea hold water? How do you apply this practically to the detail? How do you incarnate this concept that you have as Lilith, this stunt that you have as Lilith, into reality? And Mercury is about trickery. Okay, I get this trick to return the children so that the children will get the care that they need. And then we have to ask ourselves, what's at Venus sign? Well, at Venus sign, we're about to have Mercury. It's very diplomatic, cunning, tricky, knows how to say the right words that look okay. And we have Mars already conjuncting with Ketu, almost on the degree. It's 2 minutes away from the degree. Opposing Aries. So the ruler where Aries in Aries, which is 23, 24 degrees Aries, the ruler Mars is opposing this Aries. What does it mean when there's a planet in a sign and the ruler is opposing that planet? Okay. You're sitting in your boss office. Let's say you're at the army. Okay. You're sitting in the general's office. But the general is having a conversation at the peace gathering. And like, I'm here sitting in the office of the general of the army, but the general of the army is having peace talks at the parliament of some other country. So what am I to do? Everything in this house leads to weapon or innovation. But the boss is in peace talks. What am I going to do? I'm going to look at what's around me. Now, that depends on the planet. If you're Mercury, you could start, playing with the buttons. They're like, oh, one of them were red. And interrupts the ruler. And they say, well, the child was playing, but that wiped the city off. Okay? But what if it's Aries? I'm going to put an apple in the pocket of the boss, send them over to the peace talks. He takes his apple out, told him it's a nice gift, I wrapped it really nice. He takes his apple out, so we're having peace talks. And he takes the gift out, and the gift says, to the best country in the world. Okay, this is what Aries does. And Rahu, it wants to discover, devour what's in there. Oh, it's that Aries stuff. She has a stuff. It's like, let's do it. Okay? You understand how this conjunction of Mars and Ketu does not age well. Now, a couple of things can happen, okay? The apple can be rotten, because it's not operating great. And Mars is poison. The apple can be poisoned. The apple can be dropped and broke just by the merit of Mars. Mars in Libra is walking in, is an elephant in a China store. Mars is broken things, okay? It's also the remedy for Nicolas Stoyanovich. He said if you have a house that is ruled by Mars, that you make sure some building, some wall in the house will be built, but not all the way through, will not be finished, and you leave it there on purpose like this. Because Mars is broken things, and the minute Mars completes something, it breaks it apart. And so if you leave it broken, it's unfinished. And so the energy of Mars goes there. It's like eternity trying to finish that. But it doesn't get broken because we have the signification of something broken. That's Mars, that's in there, we accept. Like if you think about it from a Feng Shui perspective, you're like, this is insane. But if you think about it from an astrological remedy perspective, this is where you take the energy of Mars, you put it somewhere where it has something to do, and so it remediates, alleviates so many arguments. So the breakages, it also protects the home. So the apple could be broken, and that could be actually the remedy. You take the apple out of the pocket and poof, it falls. It's like, okay, it was clumsy. Nothing actually happened, unless the apple was, containing biological weapon or something. But if it was an actual apple and was just written on it, to the best country in the world, and it broke, then nobody said, like, nothing happened. And Mars doesn't even know what's in there. Okay? So you understand that this can reduce the effectivity of Aries to create a discord, or alternatively, create an unintended discord. So Mars actions and Mars intentions are carrying an element that is incongruent with his supposed peace initiation. Now, Mars sextiles Venus, and Venus trines Aries. So Venus here is a strong player just as much as Saturn and Jupiter. Pluto is in Saturn's sign, and it's stationed to go direct. It's going direct on 10 October. That means that now Pluto is very strong. And you must have felt it in your life. Even in the point that before the stationing and in the stationing, maybe had something that was dirty, like, your pets peed somewhere, so you try to clean it up and it doesn't work. You try to clean it up and it doesn't work. Pluto is dirt. Okay? Take out the garbage, stuff like that. And they won't evacuate the garbage because it's a holiday. That's Pluto stationing, the stagnant dirt. You say, I try to clean it up, but I need another round. Something is not moving in the place of the rejuvenation. It's kind of like a bit constipated, but not necessarily. Okay? It's just that there's some dirt to tend to, and now the process is slowed down so that it can regenerate and continue in its direct motion in Capricorn. And what's the essence of the dirt? With Mercury here trining, but Mars squaring. And Aries also squares. So we have a T-square basically with Aries, Mars, and Pluto that nobody seems to talk about. I don't know why. Okay? It's like, hey, we have a T-square between Aries, Mars, and Pluto, which is supposed to be sorted in Cancer. So Cancer, ascendants of the last phase or decan of Cancer. Let's a moment of silence for Cancer ascendant. Because you guys are supposed to be the resolution, but you've been having Pluto opposing your ascendant and Aries squaring it. Aries also, Aries squaring it. Out of sign square, but she's squaring it. Okay, so let's take a moment of silence for Cancer ascendants and Cancer last phase ascendant. And if they're Cancer last term ascendant, let's all take a moment of silence for them and pray for them. Whatever comes out of their mouth right now, this dirt needs to be purged. Let's take it with a grain of salt and allow them to poop whatever they need to from their system, because they're having a moment that has been going on and will be continuing until pretty much the end of 2024. Okay, so standing ovation for them Cancer ascendants now. And to a not much of a lesser degree, last phase Aries and last phase Libra ascendants, which haven't really experiencing the same thing but with less ability to have a resolution. So everybody's looking for this T-square that is Aries, Pluto, Mars, and a T-square is resolved at the opposite point of the head of the T, which is Pluto. And then that will be the 27th degree of Cancer. Now you say, yeah, there's Procyon there. Procyon in 25 degrees Cancer. Yeah, there's Procyon. You think about Procyon, you think about JFK and how JFK basically avoided a nuclear world war by playing trickery and appeasing diplomatically both his internal affairs and the USSR. Back then, I believe, it was still the USSR. So we're looking for a JFK, but what happened to JFK eventually? Okay. We need a JFK on board. We need a Procyon on board. But with this Procyon, we're closing a square. And so whoever is this Cancer ascendant there, or Cancer Sun, Moon, whatever, you have this Cancer quality there, with the Moon in Gemini. Okay, the Moon is ruling Cancer, is now in Gemini, so it could be Cancer. Like, this is totally a JFK here. It's needed. A JFK is needed. And Mercury trines Pluto. So if we find this figure that's able to sweeten things up, we can avoid a nuclear war with this T-square. Okay, just so that you know there could be a nuclear war breaking in. If the Moon was growing, the Moon is decreasing, which is good. It means it's eliminating, it's decreasing something. For the Moon, this one with the Moon growing in itself could be a nuclear blast out. And Uranus on the 22nd degree, trining this Pluto, is like, I'm a bomb ready to go off. Are you nuclear? I can be. Where are you going to drop? I don't know. And there's this Neptune here, and he says, you'll just surrender to it and see what happens. Okay? So right now, it's whether that Procyon becomes active and we have a JF Kennedy on board to avoid, which can be, because the Moon is decreasing, so it's not like it's the break of something, it's more like the culmination of something. So could we be having peace agreements and stuff like that? The tiny bit of a problem with this is that Mars is with Ketu. So peace initiation is something that we're letting go of. But we are also not starting something new, okay? And this is important. We are letting go of old contracts, diplomacy, power equations between countries on a mundane level. But we are also not at the break of, right now, when the Moon is decreasing, a nuclear war. For the past, for the next week or two. And so, by the next week or two, by the eclipse, Mars would already be separating from the Sketo and would be entering Scorpio. Okay? Which is going to be a very strong and significant Mars, but it's already going to be losing its orb with Pluto's big separating aspect, and by the time the moon is growing, Mars is separated from this Pluto, okay? So it's like, oh, there could be a nuclear war starting. It hasn't happened because of the spirit of the times. This one could be a nuclear war. With the moon growing and the Mars still in its place, this would be blasting out something. Just this. Okay? So, right now, we are not even noticing that we're having a moment because there's a lot that grabs our attention. Okay? There's this Lilith that thinks, oh, well, if I grab the kids of those who grab the kids, not grabbed by harass, but grabbed by kidnap, and there's this Mars that's like, I'm going to a peace initiation. It seems like we're letting go of something. And I have this apple in my pocket. I'll bring in some disease, I don't know. There's this Venus. It's like Mars is not even knowing what I'm about to do and I'm about to say, but I've been planning this the whole time I was retrograde. And I'm not going to let the circumstances stop me from just saying what I have to say. It is this Saturn. Okay, but what you have to say, does it hold water when you come to apply it in praxis in Virgo, when you're going to Ingress Virgo? It's nice as a show. But can you apply it in praxis? Can this show be practical? It's the gate of incarnation. And when we talked about Pluto stationing, we're going, well, there's a lot of pile of dirt that you have not uncovered yet. And everybody's like, but Pluto, you have been uncovering it since 2008. And Pluto's like, well, we haven't even gone to the tip of the iceberg. Look, there's a couple of degrees more to go. But what dirt? We gotta look at Saturn. And Saturn is in Pisces next to Fomalhaut. So Fomalhaut rules slander, deep wisdom, psychic knowledge, which is expressed beyond words. What's energy? What's at the depth of the ocean? What's at the underneath that we don't see? Look how Fomalhaut, the fixed star that Saturn is retrograding, is conjuncting, plays so wonderfully with the essence of Pluto. Pluto is about uncovering the underworld, and here is the fixed star of the wisdom at the depth of the ocean. Now, how are we going to bring that for everyone to see? You got to look at Jupiter. And Jupiter is in Venus sign retrograde.
We're going to sing about it, talk about it, eat about it. We're going to soil ourselves about it. We're going to plant a garden about it. We're going to sow some seed about it. We're going to trim the roses about it. And it will be playing like a tune everywhere you go. An undertone. We're going to walk up barefoot on fertile soil about it. And then you have to look at Pisces. If we're working tropically, what's the Saturn doing in Pisces? What's Pisces? It's the ocean, it's the underneath of the ocean. Well, what's in the underneath of the ocean? What shipwrecks? What nuclear stuff that's going into our water? We are radiating, probably. What's in our water? Not just fluoride. Why now? What else is in there? Pisces. Far away lands and travels. What's in there? Okay, because it's Saturn, okay, it's not Jupiter. Jupiter is like, well, did you know that the Swedes have the greatest meatballs ever? You got to try them. And you're sitting in a pub on the Road 66. How are we going to get to Sweden? Let's book a flight. Okay? If it was Venus, well, had you any idea what this tiny country called Micronesia has? They got the most beautiful women. Now, how are we going to go there? Let's book a flight. But now we have Saturn. Did you know that the kids that made your crystals, why you had no money to buy food, so you were buying crystals that were a bit cheaper so you will not think of your next meal? Did you know that they were in hunger, poverty, and life-risking situations while they were mining those crystals in Madagascar? Oh. This is what Saturn, it's like it's a faraway land, and Saturn rules crystals. What else does Saturn in Pisces have to unravel? War. Pisces is also medicine, tinctures. Okay, take the herbs from Virgo, tinctures, Bach flowers, alcohol, drugs. What does Saturn has to say about it? If it was Jupiter, it was, well, did you know that thing that you're not supposed to raise in your garden, you just take one leaf on it, and then you just lie there, and you start to see the stars, even though the stars are not visible tonight. You want to try it. What if it was Mercury out there? Well, you know, if you mix this compound with that compound, if you mix it with that compound, okay, you take one electron, put it a little bit to the left, that's cocaine. Same exact compound, okay, but on slow release. That's the amphetamines you give your 16 years old when they have like exam anxiety and they want, you want them to sit in school. That's your attempt. Okay? With Saturn, did you know that if you go to your psychologist and they're going to say, well, to treat you, I need you to go to the psychiatrist and take something because it's very difficult for me to see you like this and you're hardly comprehensible. Go to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is going to give you a pill. They're going to ask you some questions. They're going to give you a pill. It's the same pill. All of them. It's the same pill. It's called beta blockers. You know what these beta blockers do? But do you understand that what you've been injected with is chemical castration? They want you to not procreate. That's why they're doing it, and eventually it's going to kill you. But it does it so that the muscles, the autonomic muscles, do not contract, so like your heart. And when you have a heart attack, the muscles contract. And so you go to the hospitals, they give all these electricity shots and blah, blah, blah. You're alive. And then they give you a beta blocker. It's also happened if you survived cancer and you have the chemo. And to make sure that you don't survive it, they give you something for your nausea. Or that something is the beta blockers because it causes the intestines to not contract. So what happens when the heart does not contract? It does not beat. But instead of the contraction leading to stop, which we call a heart attack, you have some time to save your life, it just does not contract, you just die. Okay? That's Saturn. But you say, but why would they do that? Well, do you remember this book that was spreading around in the Second World War? It was affected by some Masonic people like Churchill. You can read all about it. You can listen here. Go to YouTube. You can look at all the Masonic thingies and what they do. You know the point where it says not all people can be free. And some people are slaves to those people that are free. You're the slave. But why? Because you're not in the Mason, so you can't be free. Okay. That's Saturn. Saturn's dredging up, and then Pluto's like, let's clean it up. Now Saturn has Mars applying to trine it. And Saturn is also applying to station direct. Okay? And all the things that he dredged up, it's going to do something about it. Saturn can terminate things. What's Saturn? What's the domain? What's the planet that rules where the house where Saturn is? Jupiter. What does Jupiter rule? Semen, worldview, and children. Sperm count. But it's in Venus sign. Yeah. Fertility, worldview on children, the ability to relax into your body and into the body of a woman, with her relaxing into your body. And how does that correlate with the sperm count? How do your ideas about children and about women and about men and about your semen, are you brainwashed? Do you hold beliefs that interfere with your semen fertility, sperm count? Jupiter squaring Venus, there's tension between what you believe, your world philosophy, and your ability to form a connection, to be open-hearted in a connection. With the very particular point of the sun, the 11th degree, it's like, oh, you're thinking to kill yourself about it, but this degree will wither away quite soon. So it's 11-11, but it's not the 11-11 light work, it's the 11-11, it's kind of light work, but it's the 11-11 where people can think to unalive themselves. It's a transient one, she'll go out of this degree. But she definitely is, the sun is definitely, is having a moment right now. A big moment. A transient moment, but also a big moment. So, we're probably in the Mercury. Mercury. As we've been talking about children, sperm count, Mercury. And Mercury is the messenger. But Mercury is also, Mercury trines Pluto, Mercury is also the whistleblower. Mercury has 29 more minutes before it ingresses into Libra. It's a very strong Mercury. It's the honoretic degree Mercury. It's a very potent Mercury. You can see by this episode, which is a mercurial activity, okay, Night of Sol and the Mercury, that there is a message being delivered, okay? So, upon this Lilith ingress, there is context to this ingress. And Lilith is passing through the gate of incarnation of what she's about to do, from the conceptual ideas she had in Leo to the applied praxis, step by step, in Virgo. Lilith is going to be meticulous in Virgo. The saying does not leave a stone unturned for the Lilith-Saturn opposition that's happening right now is completely accurate. Lilith is going to be meticulous in Virgo because she will not lay above or beneath you. You can have her beside you, or you can have her kidnapping your children. Okay? That's pretty much where Lilith goes. Now, Lilith alone does not necessitate, anything to do with children. Lilith in Mercury sign cares about children. It doesn't mean she wants to bring them herself, okay? Lilith sextile Ceres cares about Ceres' children. So if you kidnap a child from the family that the child was brought to when he was kidnapped from the mother, to bring it back to Ceres, you're not committing a moral act. Okay? Mercury right now is opposing Neptune. So all these children, to kidnap children, to play with the morality here, to be kind of like a spy, to do something, talk about organized crime concerning children or concerning the chemicals, to children going missing, all of that, and that being tended to by Lilith. Okay? this Mercury is going to ingress into Libra tomorrow. And now we're going to talk about court cases to do with children. And it's going to still be applying to sextile series, and that's important. And so from now, it's the trickery around what are we going to do, and then there's going to be a court case about children. And it can also be about women, because this is a Venus ruled sign. As to the gender discourses and surgeries around gender, this is a study case of the greater topic, which is sex and gender and fertility in the world of medicine. Okay, so stuff being exposed, like how uncomfortable and literally torturous the posture of birth giving is in conventional medicine versus with a birth doula, a maiden. Okay, we actually have the child working with gravity, so it's just going down, or you birth in the water, and if you need a hospital, you have it nearby, versus the going with the baby upside down against gravity, just because it's comfortable to some male doctor or female doctor. It doesn't matter. If she cooperates with that, she's the same. Okay, and we already get into this conversation. And I think, the woman who said that on Twitter. Okay, because this is not mine. This is by a woman who gave birth twice, the way you're actually supposed to have delivered babies. And she also has a YouTube channel. Not going to try to look for her now, but I'm going to try to put the comments down below. Nag me about this in the comments, okay? Ask me for her name in the comments, because I want to give her credit. It's a very good point. So this about the birth thing is not mine. But I just gave it as an example of the stuff you'd see popping up with these conversations. Okay, so again, the medicine versus the patients. And we have the gender affirming, gender this, gender that, and the cases where patients get gender affirming surgeries, and albeit the messiness of having to continuously preserve your body in this way, prefer it that way and are happier that way, and it's life-saving for them, versus the people who are being marketed the product of gender affirming surgeries, as well as prone to marketed the gender identity that is trans rather than to spirit, gender fluid, genderless, and the myriad of gender identity, because now there's a product to sell that's a chronicle dependency on the medical field, that if you're if you're considering what's my gender, and instead of telling you there's two spirit, there is genderless, there is queer, there is gender fluid, and there are trans people. Transgender is a very fixed gender. Okay, so you're born in a body that has a vagina and you are a man. Okay, it's a very fixed gender. Most genders are not fixed. Whether in performance, in experience, okay, most genders are not fixed. Trans is a very particular fixed. Okay, I have a vagina and I am a man. It's not true to me, I'm a man and a woman. And so if you're marketed a very, very narrow spectrum of the abundance of gender identity, because we have a product to sell to you which gets it to be dependent on our system, whether you're transgender or not. Detransitioning is possible, but it also is a very messy process. And what about fertility? And you have to make this decision when you're 15, 13. We haven't even been introduced to the whole gender spectrum. Okay? Now, if you are transgender, and you need, and also you could be a transgender person that doesn't desire to have a gender affirming surgery. Which is another thing that can be, okay? So do you understand how specific the shade of transgender people who desire to have a gender affirming surgery, and that's actually what they need and will make them happier people? Do you understand what that spectrum is in the wide spectroscopic signature of gender? Then you understand that for those particular people, yes, we want to get this gender affirming surgery ASAP because they'll be happier and they are having gender dysphoria. It can be suicidal, it cannot function. We definitely want them to have their life saved. Okay. All those other people in the spectrum will have varied rates of dissatisfaction and even damage from going gender affirming surgery. Okay? The easiest thing you could do, just one step to tend to that, is to explain to people that you can have, you could be two-spirit, you could be gender fluid, you could be a trans man or a trans woman that likes their body or maybe needs to tend to I don't know, liking this part more or that part more, but likes the body that they have, don't want to change that. Albeit it is not matching their gender, they don't have a problem with their body. Okay, I'm a woman and I am a man. Me as a man has no problem with having the body of a woman. I love my body. I love my body as a woman. Okay. There are also those spectrums. That you can be a woman for a period, and then there are certain months in the year in astrological transits where your gender changes. Sometimes it can be years between those gender phases in your performance and in your gender experience. You can be gender fluid with the fluidity running between days, so it's easier to identify. That you could be mostly cisgender with episodes of another gender, which for much of my life, I could also apply to that category. But if you ask me if I was in my 20s, that would be men, mostly men, and then some women. Because now it's mostly women, then quite a lot of men when it's a man. But the thing is that all of the above do not qualify for a gender affirming solution. They qualify for breaking the stigma. They qualify for being informed. They qualify for changing the workplace's conditions. It's like, hey, if I come to with this performance or with that performance, in case it applies to your performance, a gender performance, and you want to express it by clothing, by makeup, or whatnot, then for that to be accommodated, it applies to being able to get a job, to get a house. It applies to all of that. It doesn't apply to be independent on the medical system for your entire life, or being tagged as mentally ill at all. And so the dichotomy of, if you want to be informed and make sure that the people who need that get that, and the people who don't need that don't get coerced, marketed, manipulated into that, as it doesn't fit them, it's not the solution. If you're saying that, you're being transphobic, okay? Or on the other hand, you say, let's talk about informing people not just of gender identities, but also of the actual medical procedure and what it means. Then you're being tagged as transphobic. We talk about medical ethics. Let's talk about the money changing hands in that industry. Let's talk about the inherent challenges of offering rare cases medical solutions regardless of gender. There are many diseases or medical situations that need a rare care. Let's talk about rare diseases and the funding for research for rare diseases, intending and allocating resources to that, rather than trying to make every disease be a pandemic so that it gets budgets, so that it gets funding. And so, yes, the gender topic is in the discourse. But it's one case of the entire story of medicine, even with gender and genitalia associated with birth giving, which is also associated with fertility, which is also associated. And you try to make a person who's 13 years old or 14 years old or 15 years old to make that decision. Again, if they need that, we want them to do it as soon as possible. We don't want to lose a person in the process. But we also must understand that it's not necessarily a decision that any child can just make upon their entire being, entire life, not being informed of the many gender spectrum opportunities and opportunities to live a full and meaningful life without a drop of chemical castration, which is another implication of a lot of these surgeries. Not all of them, okay? Not all of them. There are many various of interferences, and this is also important to know. Okay? This is human beings. It's not economy. There is no economy without people. So, we definitely have been having a Mercury conversation there. And I think this episode is kind of ripe to conclude. So those have been the skies for tonight. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye.